What have you witnessed someone do that made you realize she is really, really smart? My wife's grandfather. He's a retired electrical engineer with a dozen patents to his name, and a long list of recognitions I can't be bothered to remember or name. I always knew he was brilliant, but never realized just how, until one day last year we were visiting and he got a phone call. Keep in mind he's been retired for 20 years and is 86 years old. The phone call was from an electrical engineering firm from halfway across the globe asking if they could fly him out to a site and have him consult on the energy capture of a hydroelectric dam they were building. They'd run into a problem that none of them, all electrical engineers, could solve. They had consulted 3 of the top related university departments in the US on the issue, and the last one had referred them to him. 20 minutes on the phone, and he agreed to think about it. 2 days later he had solved their issue, and written the solution on a single 8x11 sheet of paper, which he scanned and emailed to the company. He said he took so long to write it up because he didn't want to have to fly all the way there at his age. His explanation was so clear I was able to understand and follow it with no relevant higher education. One time my drunk uncle was in jail and needed bail money, and being that my dad was the only one in the family with any real savings, they all looked to him to fork up 100% the cash. Having been asked, he realized this situation had 2 possible outcomes. 1. Pay for his bail and never get the money back. 2. Not pay for the bail and the whole family blame him for it. So, my dad decided to throw them a curveball. He told them that whatever the rest of the family raised for the bail, he'll not only match it, he'll offer double whatever they raised together. Nobody offered 1 cent. Blame averted. Poor drunkle. I had a teacher in high school that using both hands could write a sentence starting from the beginning and end simultaneously. He even split the middle word of the sentence. He also spoke around 5 languages. What the frick? I was playing the card game Egyptian Rat Screw with some friends, and then all of us noticed that one of our friends was slapping a bit too fast to be believed. It turns out he was counting all of our cards and had each of our decks memorized, which is just insane. Till it's not Egyptian Rat Screw. Older brother always was terrible at school. I can remember him straight up asking why he needed to graduate high school and then again in college. He then accepted a low-level job after graduation in marketing that ultimately fell apart due to the company executives screwing up big time. During all of it he somehow was able to keep a small client, and within 7 months of working was promoted to their executive marketing director, making 6 figures. Now he has multiple clients on the side and is always scheming something up. Dude is as hard-headed as they come, but nonetheless a dang marketing genius. Blows my mind how far he has come. Sounds like he had insanely high emotional intelligence to me and understood a lot about psychology instinctively. I was once in Chinatown and I saw this old Chinese guy with a bunch of groceries. He had tied the bags together by the handle and slung them over his shoulder. He looked ridiculous. The next week I was struggling with a lot of groceries and I remembered the old Chinese guy, stopped on the sidewalk, tied all my bags together, and walked home like the unencumbered dork I became that day. Not a person, but my parents' old dog. My mom would get bones from the butcher shop for their dog. They were long enough that the dog couldn't get all the marrow out of the center. The dog figured out that only my stepdad's truck was heavy enough to break them after experimenting with the other vehicles at the house. There was usually a bone in the same spot on the driveway every time I went home. Reminds me of crows dropping nuts on crosswalks. In high school I had a friend who we made fun of all the time for being dumb, but he would have the wackiest ideas that would somehow work. One time, around Christmas of my sophomore year, a few of us decided to buy a 30-pack, and then later decided we didn't feel like drinking it that night. I couldn't keep it at my house, but one of my friend's parents was coming to pick all my buddies up. Nobody knew how they were going to get the 30 out of my house into one of their houses. Then my friend came up with a genius idea. He went upstairs in my house and wrapped the 30 in wrapping paper. He then proceeded to carry it right out to the car with our friend's mom waiting and say it was a gift for his girlfriend who he was going to be seeing later that night. I realized that not being great at school doesn't mean someone isn't. Ingenious. I knew 2 guys in undergraduate who would play mental chess. As they'd passed in the hall, One guy would say knight to queen 3 or whatever. The other guy would roll back his eyes for a second and then nod to acknowledge the move. Both guys then kept walking in opposite directions. Later that day, when they passed again, the second guy would declare his counter move, and NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP, and NBSP. A game could last days and they never forgot where any of the pieces were. Each had a mental image of the board. Sure, they might have been faking, but these guys were always first and second on the dean's honor list. For all 4 years of my undergraduate, I knew them pretty well. I think the mental chess was legit. Most really good players can do this. Once someone becomes familiar enough with the game, it becomes a lot easier to recognize patterns. Of course, intelligence is required, advantageous to get good at chess. Sitting in a best friend's apartment on the East Coast in the mid-1980s. He's working on some code on a prototype Unix workstation MIPS had given him. He runs his program, and it produces an answer, then runs it again and produces a different answer. Thinks about it for a minute and pronounces the CPU is broken. Right, the CPU is broken. Never heard that one before. Has it occurred to you that? Yes, it had occurred to him. Went through 3 or 4 scenarios. Then he pulled out the machine level debugger and started stepping through the code. Look, right here. The flags weren't updated right in this instruction. Yeah, whatever. Sends email on the brand new internet to MIPS. Gets a response the next day. Oh, you have that CPU. We have verified your issue. We will put a replacement in the mail promptly. His CPU was broken. 30 minutes from diagnosis to request to repair. Anybody who can explain highly complex things very simply. It takes an intelligent person to understand it, but it takes a brilliant person to grasp it so fully they can dumb it down to explain it to anybody. I think it was Feynman who tried to write an introductory textbook on some obscure topic and concluded that more research was needed, because he was unable to explain the topic simply enough. When you sit down in a meeting for work where you're trying to solve a big problem and someone can say, "That's the wrong question," you need to be asking. People who can do that generally understand the bigger picture and all of the various variables and factors in play and how everything fits together. It's some next level action to watch the entire room go, "Wow, we're looking at trees and that guy's looking at the forest." My responses are limited. You must ask the right question. Lazy people are the best at this. I witnessed a kindergartner who couldn't draw straight lines, keep his pencil still and drag the paper around to draw a triangle. You'll never be as lazy as the person who named the fireplace. A kid in 2nd grade already knew algebra. Everyone knew he was smart. For April Fool's Day that year, our teacher decided to be cute and give us a pop quiz, so she went to the 8th grade class and asked for an algebra test. Made copies and handed them out to us. Some of the kids were freaking out and the teacher assured us that we already went over this. So, she left the room and some of the kids started crying. She came back in after a few minutes and said that it was just a joke, but she graded the tests anyways. The smart kid scored an 18/20. My stepfather used to teach me math that was several years beyond what I was learning in 2nd grade. I'm an information sponge and he fed me brain anything that I asked for. One day my parents got a call from my teacher. The teacher told them that I was teaching my classmates 4th-5th grade math in my spare time at school and to make me knock it off. I never saw it myself because I was about 2 years old, but when my older sister was around 4 years old she used to go grocery shopping with my mom. My sister, would keep a running tally for all the items in my mom's cart. As my mom took something off the shelf, my sister would ask the price and then would add it to the total in her head. If my mom put something back she would subtract it. My sister was right every time when they got to checkout. She's a doctor now. I have started to do this when my wallet is low on cash. So, this will be around, but not to that accuracy. I often don't have to break out the credit card. My dad had a business trip in Seattle that I tagged along on so I could see a soccer match and explore the city. He invited me to go to the research hospital with him one day and I agreed. They were working on testing some type of cardiovascular tool on a cadaver that they would stimulate blood flow into test. Seeing my dad, who didn't go to college, barely graduated from high school, lived on welfare with a single mom, and who knocked up a teenage girl when he was a teenager himself, performed surgery on a cadaver using a tool he invented that could potentially save thousands of lives, blew my mind. He had hundreds of patents on devices. I got surgery 3 years ago and my shoulder surgeon used a tool he invented in the 90s. He's an incredibly smart and hard-working man who got just the right amount of luck to get him where he is today. I like it when you meet someone whose English is imperfect, but you realize they are very intelligent and are able to explain their thoughts. I remember once meeting a Japanese archaeologist who wasn't the best English speaker, but when he explained his research to me it was absolutely fascinating. Go to plug my dad in here. Had some friends over and just to mess around we asked him the definition of random words in the dictionary. We opened it to the eyes and asked the definition of 10-12 letter, 3-4 syllable words. Not only did he nail all of them but most definitions were verbatim. When we got to the 10th word, he goes, the verb or the noun, and we lost our crap. It was seriously ridiculous. We were freshmen in high school and could hardly pronounce the words we picked. Turns out he read the whole dictionary over the summer when he was 16 and bored. Guy is still the smartest person I've ever met. I'm not even a dad, but if I found out my son said this about me I'd probably cry. My older brother has really bad ADD and always did terrible in school. I never realized how smart he was until a few years ago. We were watching Jeopardy together and he knew most of the answers to the most obscure crap. I was blown away. I swear it was like the scene from Groundhog Day. When my dad just decided to add an addition to the house. Like he'd be out there 70-80 hours a week adding 3 extra floors to the house with running water up to the 3rd floor. He would rent excavators and large moving equipment and only like 3 or 4 times he would hire an extra hand. That was amazing. Lots of dads decide to do that. But it sounds like yours actually completed it, which is absolutely amazing. Wife is smart, like 6 languages fluently, smart without breaking a sweat. Has never not done well in school, always gets promoted etc etc. But no one in my family saw this because she's an introvert and tries to keep herself dumb so people get her and like her. My family and I are smart. She's next level up. So, after we got engaged, family had get together, as in cousins, friends, lots of people. As usual, we played some group games. She was reluctant, but I pulled her aside and asked her to try and fit in. She obliged, but was annoyed with me. Started with Pictionary. She schooled the room. Moved to a bunch of card games with a single deck. Counted cards. Knew everyone's decks etc. Quiz board game. Knew all the answers. Over and over again. She was dominant to the point of silencing my family. It was unnerving even for me. A few weeks later when we visited her family, we don't play games with soon-to-be Mrs. Frogtoosh. She plays to decimate the competition. Oh. Found out my little brother, age 12, has a legit photographic memory. He's a big LOTR fan and knows an abnormal amount about the series. Whenever he answers questions about it he looks up and squints a bit. I asked him about it and it turns out that he is actually reading from the book in his head. He can even jump to random page numbers. He also knows a ridiculous amount of world history. I go to him when I need help with that. Sadly, he is adopted and we don't share the same genes. I'd like to be friends with your little brother. I'd take him to parties with me just for the lot of trivia so I don't have to pull out the complete guide to Middle Earth. Just kidding. I don't get invited to parties. Put hardly any time into studying and do better on an exam than me after I spend days studying. I was a kid, but I wish I wasn't. By the time I got to university I had no idea how to properly study and my grades took a huge hit and never really recovered. Growing up your dad is always that nut, at least mine was. Always thought of him as a joker who liked to invent stuff around the house. Long story short, when I was around 12, he made a basic hydrogen engine. He was on track to making it practical for his van and was so stoked, claiming he would get up to 4-5 more miles to the gallon. He was able to make a small hydrogen cell and a housing for it and set it in his van. It was so complicated I can't even explain it properly. He got 3-4 more miles to the gallon so his prediction was pretty close. He was then stuck on how to get more out of it, make it cheaper, and maybe pitch his idea to get it on the markets. One day he was googling new ideas and came across an AS uni that basically did the same thing before him. IDK the details, but it crushed him. He stopped working on it. Kinda stopped making stuff. A few years ago I was home visiting and was walking through his workshop and found the cell tucked away all dusty. It dawned on me then that I will never come close to being as smart and intuitive as my father. I told him before I left too. My old man cried. I cried. It was great. Man, beautiful and sad. I bet it meant a lot to your old man hearing you say that. One of my best friends from high school was like a real life Good Will Hunting story. We came from a small, blue collar town. His parents were relatively poor. He was pretty much unheard of and unpopular, but not nerdy or geeky, more so hung out with the druggies and rock band types. Until he got to high school, he started becoming fascinated with math and physics. He would spend hours at the library just reading books upon books on the topics. Apparently he scored perfect or close to it on his AP exams in calculus and physics. As a sophomore in high school, our physics teacher at the school immediately took him under his wing, and before his sophomore year was over, he was teaching college math classes. He went on to get his doctorate from an Ivy League school and of course is a professor now. But he is definitely the smartest person I know. We used to sit at coffee shops in high school and he would just start doodling long, complex math problems on his napkin. It was way beyond anything I could understand, and I had taken all the same AP type classes he did. Holy crap, I've always wondered how people just get good at that stuff. It's like they have a giant vault only for that. Kid I knew in high school bet his friends, who were in the class, that he could get a 5, top score, on the AP chemistry test even though he didn't take the class. He did. My dad's friend has a son. Let's call him John, not call him anything because I never make reference to this pseudonym again. I first met him when I was about 17 and he was 11. The first thing I noticed was that he could hold his own in conversation with me as a peer. We discussed music and the city he lived in and life in general. Later that day he played a piece on piano, one that he wrote and had apparently won an award for. I really enjoyed it. Years later I saw his plans on paper for a complex, turn-based RPG type game. Each action was mapped to a different result on another page. It was like a choose-your-own adventure novel or visual code, tough to describe but pretty fascinating. I always got this sense of very deep intelligence when I was around him, but also that his mind worked very, very differently than most people's. When I last spoke to him, I think he was 17 or 18. He was starting to get into drugs. He hadn't done well in high school and was thinking about getting certified to drive a forklift. Since then he's been struggling with mental illness of some sort. He violently attacked a family member and was kicked out of his house. I feel like he might be one of the brightest people I know, on par with friends who are pursuing PhDs. But I wonder if his full potential will ever be realized. And then I wonder if realizing one's potential is really the right goal. Maybe he would be happy with a stress-free life driving a forklift. I can understand the appeal. The desire to let go of the crushing weight of expectations people have put on you, or you have put on yourself. I hope he's happy, however his life turns out. Someone who doesn't engage with overdramatic, argumentative people. How's the saying go? An idiot will bring you down to their level and win. Smart people just avoid it and know how and when to keep their mouth closed. My younger brother did really badly at school. He had tutors, aftercare. My mother went absolutely mad with frustration. When he did his finals, he did miserably and didn't get university endorsement. That is, the education board's little stamp of approval that says you're smart enough for university. He went straight to work at the place he'd done work experience at, and within a year he was promoted, highly praised for his work, exceeding expectations. Last year he was offered and accepted a job to work for Amazon. He's already been promoted. His girlfriend, who A, was his first girlfriend and B, M, he only met at 21, and him are moving in together tomorrow. She's going to study in the city they moved to, and I couldn't be prouder of how this stupid little cockroach brother of mine turned out so amazingly. P.S. Broke 16k karma and needed to tell someone who knows what that means. It's you. My dad's friend Mitch, I've only met him a few times, but when I saw him a few months ago at my parents' anniversary party he remembered my birthday. I thought it was just weird until he pointed around the room and told me everyone else's birthday too. It was surreal. My younger brother unfortunately has severe ADHD and other mental disorders. He was kicked out of a couple of schools and has extreme social anxiety. He gets really annoying and argumentative. But dang, I have seen that boy observe something for a few minutes, be it a sport, a dance move, an equation, something tech related, an instrument, and execute to near perfection after maybe 3 tries. He sat down with my girlfriend to study algebra while he was in school and understood the whole chapter in few minutes. He just needed someone to motivate him. As a person with ADHD, this is almost always the case. People with learning and concentration problems usually just need to be shown something in a way that engages them. Otherwise, they will be more likely to get disheartened or distracted. Use their native language in fun and original ways, like making conversations very colorful, fun adjectives, nice metaphors, etc. Crap mother butt tc dong mother crap butt t mother crap. Come on. My dad. I've never seen him in a situation he can't handle. To be fair, he's been an engineer for most of his life, so problem solving is his life. I interned at his job and he solved a problem he'd had issues with for months in 10 minutes. People always say I'm really smart, but it humbles me when I work with my dad and some of my engineering peers. I love it though. A lot of it is just experience. I've been an engineer for 10 plus years and have gotten to point where I recognize solutions quickly and potential pitfalls. Mostly because I've fricked them up in the past. Behind every competent 40-year-old is a 20-something who made a lot of mistakes. When my friend, who is a prodigy at school and everything he does, chose to go to a music college to learn piano jazz, when he could have been a neurosurgeon or an astronaut. While I knew he was smart before, that made me realize that apart from being good at memorizing stuff, he could also realize that good grades don't mean you can be a doctor or a scientist. They mean you can do whatever you want, prestigious or not, and that he could see what would make him the happiest. In my book, he went from a smart student to one of the great minds I've ever talked to. My buddy was the same, got a perfect on his ACT, could figure out anything in his head. He was the smartest person I knew. He went to school for agriculture and wanted to just farm. I guess whatever works for you. My cousin. I was 18. She was 16 at the time. We were sitting around the table with our family, and I suddenly realized that my sanitary pad is leaking, and I am leaving a bloody stain on a chair. I was absolutely horrified and in panic, not knowing how to leave a room full of people without anyone noticing, and without actually turning my back to them. I whispered my problem to my cousin. She thought for a second, then stood up, went to the basement and switched the electricity off. I sneaked to the toilet covered by the darkness, and the moment I was safely out of the room she switched the electricity back on. They saw the blood on your chair and thought you were kidnapped violently by a ninja. Finally, something I can contribute. Back in college I had 3 roommates, an engineer major, pre-med and pharmacy major. Let's call him Ray. Ray met his girlfriend freshman year and they dated throughout undergrad and farmed school. Our school had an intense pharmacy program and we see students working and studying their butt off. Ray's girlfriend always set up these study groups and invite Ray, but Ray never attended and would lie to his girlfriend that he was studying on his own. The roommates and I knew what's up. Ray was always in his room playing video games, watching TV, movies. The guy never talked about class, but he attended every session and lab. Every midterm he took he aced, and that really pissed off his girlfriend and pharmacy friends. The crowning moment that I knew this guy was a genius happened during sophomore year spring finals. I was up late studying and Ray was on his computer playing CS. He suddenly got up, went to his closet, pulled out one of his textbook, took off the shrink wrap, looked at a page, put the book back in his closet and resumed playing a CS. I was like, dude, what the frick? He said he had a final in the morning and forgot a compound formula and had to look it up. I lived with this guy for another 2 years and he never studied and textbooks were still shrink wrapped up. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.